Well, good morning once again. I love singing that song. I know I know there are certain songs that probably you were thinking sometimes, seriously, we're singing this again. But that's one of those songs, man. I love singing it. I love singing it with you guys. It just brings joy to my heart. And there's one piece of it that I want us to focus on today that we just got done singing. The part of the song where we sing to God, we pray to God, we ask God to take our lives and let it be all for Him and for His glory. And it's awesome the way it's written in the psalm. We're singing with our hearts, and I just wonder sometimes, I won't even put it on you. I wonder about me sometimes if I really mean that. Or do I mean take part of my life, God, and let it be all for you and for your glory? Do I want Him to have every aspect of my life? My time, my wallet, my stuff, my priorities, my agenda. Do I really want that to be His? Or do I just say that I want it to be His? Keep that in mind. We're going to talk about India today. I have a confession to make. I will begin with a confession this morning. When I grew up going to church, I was, when the doors were open, my family was there. And one of my least favorite Sundays when I grew up going to church was when the traveling missionary would come and show slides about whatever mission trip he had been on. Okay, I'm confessing that to you. As soon as I walked in and I knew we were having a traveling missionary, because, he was going to show slides, the old click, the rotating slide projector thing. He was going to show slides, and it was going to be a bunch of people that I didn't know and a bunch of places that I never planned on going to. And, and I was telling my own kids that are gone this weekend to this youth rally, I'm like, man, I'm going to be talking about India on Sunday, and I just know there's going to be people looking at me like, oh, you're going to give us a mission report. And I already know there's some of you have that attitude right now. And my kids were like, well, part of that has to do with like how interesting was the guy that was doing the talking. I'm like, hey, good point. If I can make this fun and exciting, which I can't, I'm just going to share with you my experiences. I'm saying this morning, if you're a guest with us today, it's going to be a little bit different than a typical Sunday. Because we're going to share, Paul Curry and I are going to share with you some of our experiences of being in India. And I recognize ahead of time that there's probably, even if you're not physically doing it in your minds, there's a little bit of an eye roll going on, this is the Sunday we chose to come to this church. Hang with us, okay? I want you to see what God is doing in other parts of the world. The way this trip came about in the first place was a guy named Kurt Picker, who we hosted here at Flagstone a couple of years ago on a Sunday morning during class time to tell us about the work that he was involved in India. We're not even, at this point, financially supporting what he's doing. He just came and reported to us, here's what's going on, and had some information in the lobby afterwards. But he's got family in the area, and he was here back in October and was here for worship. And when worship was done, I can't even remember if I got a chance to say hi to him in the lobby or not. But on Monday, there was a message on our church answer machine. It was Kurt, and Kurt was saying, Marshall, enjoyed worship yesterday. Just want you to think about coming to India with me. And I texted Christy at her job, and I said, hey, this guy that, has come and reported to us about India just left a message, saying he might, want me to go with him on a trip, thinking she's going to be like, well, not right now. We're busy. We got stuff going on with our kids and, things happening. And her text message back to me was like, great, you should go. Okay, that's not what you were supposed to. We got to work on our communication, She didn't read my mind through the phone like I thought she was going to. Kurt wasn't necessarily expecting me to say okay either. And I did, and it kind of surprised him. It surprised me. We were surprised together that I'm going on this trip to India. And then as we're talking about the details of it, he said, well, you can have somebody from your church come along with you. And Paul Curry is our deacon over our missions programs, and he's helped us support a different ministry that's been going on for a while in India already. And then Paul's dad, goes to India like every year for 3 or 4 weeks. And so I knew he would be interested in going. So I asked him, and he took the vacation time and went with me. And we went and spent the whole trip was about 11 days with travel and everything included, but we spent probably about 7 days in India itself. And we're going to share a few things with you this morning about that. We were supposed to share this 2 weeks ago, and we got iced out, and then Paul couldn't be here last week. And so this is a little bit further removed from our actual trip. We're going to start out with a video this morning. And it's a little bit lengthier video than what we typically show, but it kind of shows the highlights of everything that we were involved in. And I will tell you ahead of time, because we were coming back to the States and we're planning on sharing with you the very next Sunday when we got back all the information and share this video with you. Kurt was one that shot the video and sent it to his video guy at his church in Atlanta. And so the quality's good, everything's good. I'm just saying we didn't like script this out, you know. He pointed the camera at me and was like, start talking. And so I just kind of winged it. And then, you know, he got it put together. But I think it's very well done. I think it'll give you a good picture of what we experienced. So I don't want to share anything with you ahead of time. I'm just going to let the video do the talking for me. Does that make sense? I'm just going to share that with you. As soon as the video is done, Paul's going to share a couple of things that are on his heart from what he experienced, and we'll wrap up this morning, okay? So thank you for choosing to be here, and I hope you get a sense of what we got to experience while we were in India a month ago. Hello, Flagstone family. I'm coming to you from a town called Ongole in the country of India, a town of maybe 400,000 people. And a few weeks ago, we spent time together talking about our mission as God's people and how God has sent all of us on a mission to be His hands and feet, to share our faith with other people. And that's what I feel like I've been called to do on this trip. I feel like God has put it on my heart to be sent to India, at least for a short amount of time. So that's where I am. That's what I've been doing. I want to spend a few minutes just showing you some of the things that we've been a part of, that Paul Curry and I have been a part of while we've been here in India, where we believe God sent us on His mission for the last week. So one of the things that we've been a part of while we've been here in India is what's called the Wings House, which houses a lot of boys and girls from this town, from local villages. They sleep here, they eat here, they're taken care of here. They do their homework and walk to school together. And you can see here some of these lovely girls that live at Wings House. They're responsible for washing their own clothes and hanging them out to dry, and that's what they're doing at this time. This is a safe atmosphere, a safe place that's been provided for them by people who love them, who care about them, who want the best for them, things that they may not be able to experience in their own homes. There's a lot of boys that live at the Wings House as well. These are some of my new friends. They love to have fun. They love to study hard in school. They take care of their laundry. They help serve each other meals. And Scripture tells us, Jesus tells us, that we're supposed to have the heart of children. If I could consistently have a heart of joy and peace like these boys and girls at this house do, I'd be blessed. These are the kind of boys and girls that God has called us to serve and to take care of. These are the kind of boys that I want to have a heart and a faith like. I'm so proud to be even a small part, even for a few days, of this important ministry. Got it. For lots of different things, for washing their clothes, for providing water for their showers, washing dishes when they're done eating, washing utensils that they've used throughout the day. And Jesus talked about having wells of living water welling up within us when we live by His Spirit. It gives a new meaning to that when you see these boys and sometimes girls pumping water from a well to provide the needs for their everyday activities. who they are and what is going on in their lives, what exactly do they need to hear? Do they need to hear a certain scripture? Do they need help with something? Do they need to hear about Jesus? What is the message they need to hear right now? It doesn't matter if we're male, female, from India, from America, even Hindus, Muslims, and Christians. God created all of us in His image to be.
Above the way, my soul will rest in your embrace. I am yours, and you are mine.
We're on one of the streets in Ongole right now. This is a Sunday evening on the streets of Ongole. Actually, probably on a regular business day, it'd be a lot busier than this. You can see lots of motorcycles, rickshaws, people walking by, going about their business, going about some of them a nice leisurely evening. We're getting ready to go do some service. We're getting ready to go help some people. We're going to a leper church, a church of people with leprosy. We're going to go worship with them. We're going to help them in any way that we can. We've already, on 2 different occasions so far on this trip, have given maybe upwards of 200 people supplies, food, blankets, pillows, just to make their lives a little bit better. It's a group of people that are often overlooked, not thought much of in this culture, in this country. And for us to be able to do a small part to share the blessings that we have with someone in the condition that they're in, it's a blessing to us. They see it as something beyond value. It's so valuable to them, not only to receive these things, but to receive them from us. And that's humbling for us to be able to just be a small part of doing what really God has blessed us with the ability and the capacity to do. So we're going to do that tonight, and I'm excited about it. I'm very excited and very thankful to be spending a few minutes with you tonight. I know that that all of you have different problems and different struggles and sufferings. I have problems, but they are not the same problems that you have. I know. That's why we got to get this phone call taken care of. But I'm thankful that we have a Savior in Jesus that sees us, that sees our troubles, and that cares. There was a time when Jesus looked out on a crowd of people, and the Bible says that when he looked at them, he saw them as sheep needing a shepherd. And he took time to focus on them, to pay attention to them, to talk with them, to let them talk with Him.
కాబట్టి ఆ కాపాడేటువంటి విధానంలో దేవుడు మనతో దాని వాక్యం ద్వారా మాట్లాడితే మనం ప్రార్థన ద్వారా అయితే మనం మాట్లాడాలి.
Because our God is a God who sees us. And our God is a God who cares about us.
మన దేవుడు మనల్ని నిరంతరం చూస్తూ ఉన్నాడు. అదేవిధంగా మనల్ని నిరంతరం కాపాడుతూ మన ప్రతి విశ్వాసాన్ని చూస్తున్నాడు. అంటే మన విషయంలో చాలా కేర్ తీసుకుంటున్నాడు ఆయన.
I'm thankful that I serve a Savior who sees me and loves me in spite of my mistakes and my problems.
అంతేకాదు మనం చేస్తున్న ప్రతి తప్పును ఆయన క్షమిస్తున్నాడా లేదా? మనలో తప్పులు చేయడం లేరని ఉన్నారా? అందరూ చేసేవారు. అందరూ చేసేవాళ్ళే. అయితే కొంతమంది కనపడేది చేస్తారు, కొంతమంది కనపడకుండా చేస్తారు. కానీ దేవుడికి మాత్రం
Have you ever seen the
కనిపిస్తూనే ఉంది.
And I'm thankful that Jesus sees you and cares about you as well.
మరి ఇది యేసునందు విశ్వాసం ఉంచడం
as the
ద్వారా
eyes begin to open
నిరంతరం కాపాడుతున్నాడు.
and the brightest speaks the light?
మన దేవుడు ఉన్నాడు.
We speak a different language, we live a different life.
మరి మనం తెలుగు మాట్లాడితే వాళ్ళు ఏం మాట్లాడుతున్నారు? మన లాంగ్వేజ్ వేరు కదా, వాళ్ళ భాష మన భాష వేరు. కానీ మనల్ని ఇరువురిని మనం దేవుని వేరైనప్పటికీ కూడా మనం కాపాడే దేవుడు.
But we serve a God who loves us both. And that's wonderful.
మరి ఏ భేదములు లేదు, అందరినీ ఆయన ప్రేమిస్తూనే ఉన్నాడు.
We're riding in a rickshaw in Ongole. There's in a town of hundreds of thousands of people. And there's a scripture where Jesus is in a crowded house, and a woman comes in and she's crying, she's upset about the life that she's been living. She ends up washing Jesus' feet with her tears and drying them with her hair, and everyone's staring at her. And Jesus asks the host of the home that he's in, "Do you see this woman?" And obviously everyone can see this woman. And I know, Flagstone family, you've heard me tell this story before. Jesus isn't asking, "Can you physically see this woman who is touching my feet?" Jesus is asking, "Do you see who this woman is? Do you see her heart? Do you see the things she's been struggling with? Do you see where her life is right now? And what are you willing to do about it?" And as I ride in this rickshaw, passing by thousands of Hindus, Muslims, atheists, I'm reminded of those words of Jesus, because I believe that Jesus could look at each one of these people and say, "I see you. I see what's going on in your life. I see how I can make it better." And I think he's calling us, asking us, do you see these people? Do you see where they are? Do you see where their faith is or where it could be? Do you see where their needs are? And do you see how you can meet them? Do you see the men and women in this and the children in this city? And what are you willing to do about it? Just one final thought from India. I'm standing here tonight on the rooftop of the Wings house in a traditional Indian kurta. And when I got it, I wanted to have something that would make me look and feel like a true Indian man. And I thought maybe this kind of garment represented, I don't know, royalty, or at least maybe something that dignitaries wore. So I looked things up on Google, and no, this is just a plain old shirt. And when you are in India, this is one of the things that you can wear. There's nothing spectacular about it. There's nothing significant about it. It's just a shirt to wear. But I think maybe that's probably the best thing that I could wear. The Apostle Paul said that he wanted to try to become all things to all men. And I'm trying to feel like and look like someone from India. But I'm not from India. I'm a guest here. I'm a visitor here. And just trying to do something that God has enabled me with the ability to do. And you as my church family has enabled me with the ability to do. It's just a plain old traditional shirt, standing on a concrete roof, overlooking the city of a bunch of, I guess you could say, plain, ordinary houses with a train blowing a whistle in the background. The Apostle Paul says in the book of 2 Corinthians that the message of the cross, the message of grace and love that we find because of Jesus Christ, that's a treasure. But that treasure doesn't come in a fancy package. It doesn't come with lots of gold and bling. That package comes in a jar of clay. It's something that's ordinary. It's something that a lot of people might see as insignificant. That message comes through us, and sometimes we feel like, well, I'm just ordinary. There's nothing special about me. There's nothing unique that I can do. And I want you to know, I've experienced this week the fact that God can use anyone, no matter what position in life, no matter what their life experience is, to share this valuable treasure of the grace of Jesus Christ with anyone else. And so I'm standing here in this ordinary shirt and on top of this ordinary building overlooking a city that most people would say is full of ordinary people and ordinary buildings, to share with you, to remind you that even if you feel ordinary and insignificant, God has given you a special treasure. God has given you something beyond value to share with other people. It may come in a jar of clay. It may come in something simple and seemingly insignificant, but it's something that people need to hear and experience. I've gotten to do that for a little bit this week because of your love, because of you sending me here, because of your prayers. And I hope that you and I together can learn to share this special treasure with others when I get back home.
Good morning, everybody. So, I know you don't see me up here very often, and I don't do a whole lot of public speaking or anything like that, so hopefully what I'm going to tell you is going to make sense. In my mind, it's making sense, but hopefully it all comes out as making sense to you. I didn't know that I was going to be going to India this year until recently, and so Marshall said, "Hey, you want to go to India?" And I said, "Sure, let's go." And so we ended up getting everything situated where we could go. And so the journey started, and we got there, and come to find out, you got to be flexible, of course, and somewhat expect the unexpected. And so I did my fair share of public speaking. I'm not going to say I did any lessons like Marshall or anything like that, but we had a ceremony where a local politician was coming, and the local TV stations were coming to film us and everything like that. And they said, "Hey, come on up here. You guys need to say something to the crowd." And so one at a time, we came up there and we all said, our little piece to the crowd and how much we enjoyed being there and the people and things like that. And then we went to the leper church that you guys saw in the video, and they said, "Hey, we're going to take turns. We're all going to say something." And I said, "Okay." So I winged it, and Marshall helped me out and stuff like that. So we got through that. And then there was the church that we went to. There was another family that had a young lady that was going to be married. And of course, arranged marriages are still common over there in India. And they said, well, we want to go over here and pray for this girl and her family. And so Rama's the main guy that runs Wings, and his father is Venkata Rao. And we went over there with him, and we sat down in like a little 3-bedroom house, and there was probably 40 people crammed into this place, and they made people move so we could come sit around the family and stuff like that. And they said, okay, you're going to give marriage advice to this young lady. Really? Okay. And so we went through that, and everybody did their part, and we prayed for the family and stuff. But I don't know if just being presented there and saying, hey, you need to say something, I don't know if that helped me out or not, but I'm going to just tell you a few things that I learned about India, and hopefully it'll get some of you excited, maybe wanting to go, at least learn more about it. And so one of the first things that I learned is they love selfies. Everywhere we went, somebody said, hey, can we take a picture? Selfie? Selfie. Even though they didn't speak very much English, they knew selfie. So when you go to the train stations, if you're not the last stop on this train and you're trying to get on, you've got 3 minutes. So you've got, was it 5? I think it's 5 people had a suitcase, a backpack, and sometimes a little carry-on bag. And we're trying to get to the other side of the train tracks, and all of a sudden, here comes this guy running up. He goes, where are you from? America. He goes, ooh, selfie? Selfie? Sure, we can do that. And so, like in the video, you could see that Marshall was trying to film, and I know that some of them were put there around him, but then all of them wanted to be there, and every one of them was smiling. Am I in there? Am I in there? So even though they want to take selfies, they want to be included, just like everybody here does. And another thing is they love to pray. Everybody at church wants to be prayed for there. Any of the lepers that we went and visited, we prayed for all of them. Even though I prayed for one gentleman, he wanted Marshall to pray for him, and then he wanted Kurt and Roxy to pray for him. And it didn't matter if they didn't understand what you were saying. They just knew that you were going to be praying for them, and that's what counted. Another thing I learned was that the kids are amazing. Upon our arriving there at the Wings house, the kids were all lined up in a row on each side, and we came through and they threw flowers on us, welcoming us. And they did a little ceremony and stuff like that, but then it kind of continued throughout the week. We would go down for breakfast and we would walk them to school, but the first thing you did was walk out there into the little courtyard area. All you hear is, hi, Dad, hi, Dad. And then Miss Roxy would come out there and they'd be, hi, Mom, hi, Mom. And it wasn't just 1 or 2, it was all 90 of them. So every morning before they went to school, they had to have their homework signed for in all these books. Well, most of the days we would all go down there and they would bring it to us, and you'd only get one signature. But one morning Marshall didn't go down, and the other gentleman that was with us, Chuck, didn't go down, and so I got to sign all 90 of them. Yes. So that in itself was an experience. My hand hurt a little bit after signing 90 times. Another thing that I've learned is that the persecution there is still real. Just because they're allowed to worship Jesus doesn't mean that they can necessarily go around and spread it to everybody, make it publicly known that, hey, I want you to, come follow Jesus, become a Christian, because as far as I understand, I'm not exact on the statistic, but at least 95% are still Hindu over there. If not, they're Muslim. And so when we would go to these different churches and stuff, we could do the preaching and talk to the people and pray. But like when we went to the beach, we could not be seen baptizing people, just because then it would be looked down upon, and then we could possibly get arrested or kicked out of the country for promoting Christianity. And so there are these preachers that go out and start from nothing. And so they start talking to the locals, and they recruit all of these different family members, and they work their hardest that they can, even though they know things can happen to them. During the preachers' classes that we had on Thursday and Friday, we had one gentleman come forward and show us scars on his arms where he had been beaten because he was a local Christian preacher, and these others, I don't remember if they were Muslim or Hindu, but they didn't like what he was doing, and they let him know about it. So they do this knowing that there are risks involved, and knowing that their reward in heaven will be the ultimate reward. One of the last things I want to tell you is that they have passion in their hearts, and they want to learn. There's one gentleman, I do not know his name, and I think his nickname was given by the people there, and his nickname is John 3:16. He did come down for us. He quoted this verse so passionately, so loudly, that he almost broke down in tears because he believes it so much. And so we're like, wow, these guys are serious about this. I don't know if we find this in America or not, but this guy put his heart into everything that he was saying. As far as the churches go, the land being so expensive, I believe I heard it was $130,000 for just 1 acre. And so they don't have that much money, and they have to put money together to be able to buy all this land, even if it is an acre. But most of these churches that start out are in homes, and then sometimes there might be someone with a little more money that'll have a little bit bigger building. But as you could see in the one where everybody was sitting in the floor, they had all crammed in there. I don't know if you could see, but there was still chairs lined up outside just because everybody wanted to be there to hear and listen. There's still a lot of work to be done. There's so many people. There's, I believe, 1.2 billion. They're going to pass China in population. And there's still a lot of Hindus and Muslims that still need to hear about Christianity. I think that's all I've got for you. I just want to say thank you to Flagstone for allowing us to go and explore this country and find out what we can do to help these people. I want to thank our wives, Christy and Mandy, and our families for dealing with everything here while we were gone, running the kids to sports and school and stuff like that. And then I want to thank Kurt and Roxy Picker. They were the ones that helped organize this. They were there with us the whole time. They were always there ready to go, always wanted to do something. And then, last of all, I want to thank Marshall for inviting me, becoming a good friend, and becoming my true brother. And I just want to say thank you for the experience, and I hope you guys enjoyed this information. Thank you.
So you get a little bit of a sense of what we experienced. It was awesome. And we're going to wrap up. Don't worry. I don't have another hour of stuff to share with you. I do, but I'm not going to. So, kind of like Paul, just some of the things that I learned that I observed. One thing that stood out to me was just their sense of contentment. Just the ability to be content with whatever the situation is. These 90-some-odd kids, you saw kind of the games we were playing. They have kind of a dirt area to make up their own games with, and they figure out a way to do that. And when they have their meals, kind of the area, you couldn't really see it, but it's just a concrete and tile floor, and they sit on that with their metal trays of rice and whatever sauce is with that, and they eat no utensils, just eat with their fingers. And where you saw us with the preaching students, that's kind of the auditorium of that church building, but that's also part of the whole complex is where those kids live. And so where we were with the preacher students at night, that's where the boys slept, on that tile floor, just laying mats out there. And they're so content with that. There's not a sense of, man, I wish my life was so much different than what it is. And Paul tells Timothy in 1 Timothy chapter 6, godliness with contentment is great gain. We brought nothing into the world, and we can take nothing out of it. But if we have food and clothing, we'll be content with that. And to be honest with you, my list is probably a little longer than that. I might want to say if I have food and clothing and my television and my truck, and I could name off probably a dozen more things, then I'll be content with that. And these folks were content with food and shelter. The lepers that we helped, there was nobody that was like, oh, I don't like this blanket. Can you get me a different one? They were so thankful just to have whatever they had. And I'm hoping to be more contented with things in my life. As Paul used the word passion, I thought of the word eagerness. They're just so eager to be around Christians and around each other and to hear the word, and be prayed for, or to just have connection with each other. The kids, kids are kids. They'll hang out with anybody. They want to play with you. They want to have games. They wanted you to sign their homework. They wanted you to just connect with them in some way. The church folks are so glad to see us and wanted to be prayed over and wanted to hear whatever it was that you had to say. It reminded me, one of the examples in Matthew chapter 15, when Jesus has all these crowds following him. And trust me, I'm not comparing myself to Jesus at all. But just the times when Jesus would be just inundated, just flooded with people who were wanting to see him, wanting to hear him, wanting him to heal them, wanting to hear whatever message they had to share. And they were so excited and so eager just to be around Jesus. And they would skip meals and just be with him all day because they were so excited and eager about it. And that's what I witnessed from the people that we were around, from the lepers, from the kids, from the church folks. They were so desperate for connection with other Christians. And I think sometimes we view getting together with church folks almost as a chore. And I wonder sometimes how eager we are to be together, how much we really look forward to it, how much we really are excited to see each other when we see each other. I want that eagerness. I want that passion that they have. I want to model that for you guys. I hope we can develop that together. Talking about the persecution, they have an incredible amount of faith. Christianity is not popular in India right now, and they're being faithful anyway. One gentleman showed us a video of his home village where people had gathered together and taken all the Bibles they could find and were burning them. Burning just a pile of Bibles. And another man stood up and said, well, they can burn me if they want to. I'm going to keep preaching the message. And I'm just like, good for you, man. But I don't have those kind of threats here. I have threats from people, if I'm too long-winded, or I have threats from people if I say something that's politically incorrect. That's the kind of threats that I deal with. I don't have physical violence threatening me, but they do. And they're going to be faithful anyway. I'm in awe of that kind of faith. I want my faith to keep growing to get to that point. And Paul says in Romans chapter 1, I'm not ashamed of the gospel. I'm proud. I'm not embarrassed of it. It's got power. It's the power of God that brings salvation to everyone who believes. And the people that we were around in India, that's how they live. Completely unashamed. And I want that for you. I want that for me. I want us to emulate what I saw in them, that we are completely unashamed in our workplaces, our families, in our neighborhoods. I want us to grow to have that kind of faith. As a matter of fact, there was one time, I know I said I was going to be quick. There was one time when these preacher students were talking about persecution that they're dealing with, and they were almost like, yeah, that's just the way it is. It's almost like, why are you even asking about it? And one of them asked the question, well, we hear about churches shutting down in America. Why are so many churches closing? If you don't have persecution like we do, why is the church not growing? And our response was, yeah. I mean, how do you respond to that? And they were even saying, well, maybe we should come over and start preaching in America. Maybe you should. I don't know. Maybe things, they are so convinced of the truth of what they believe in. And they are so unashamed to talk about it. Lord, give me that kind of faith. The last thing that I saw was just opportunity. There's 400,000 people in the town that we were in Ongo. We flew into a city called Chennai. There's 8 million people who live there. And it's not even the biggest city in India. By the year 2020, India is going to surpass China for total population. It's going to be the most populated country in the world. And it's about the third of the size of the United States. There's a lot of opportunity for people to hear about Jesus. And I'm not saying that people don't need to hear about him in other parts of the world. I'm just saying my experience in India taught me there's a lot of opportunity there for people to hear about Jesus who have never heard about him before. And Jesus challenged his disciples in John chapter 4 and said, open your eyes and look at the fields. They're ready. They're ready for the harvest. There's people who are ready to hear and ready to experience the truth that we've experienced. And I want to seize the opportunity. I want us to figure out ways together to seize the opportunity. Not only just across the world, but here in our own community as well. The fields are ready. Let's get out and start harvesting them. The last thing. On the last day that we were in India, we were, as I said, in a city called Chennai, which tradition says is where the apostle Thomas was killed. Tradition says that he made his way over to India and preached the gospel there, and at one point he offended one of the wealthy men in that area, wealthy rulers in that area, and was imprisoned and then was killed, was speared to death. It's hard to find anything with any significant historical accuracy to that, but it's the story. And we got to go to the top of what's called St. Thomas Mount. It's this hillside, this hill that overlooks the rest of the city of 8 million people. And it's humbling. It's humbling to be there. If that's the place where he was killed, if that's the place where he gave his life, to look over a city of 8 million people and recognize that Thomas, the guy that said, I'm not sure I'm going to believe that Jesus really rose from the grave. Remember that guy? That's him. The guy that when Jesus said, here's the scars, here's the marks. You need to figure out this is for real. And Thomas's response is, my Lord and my God. That guy, at some point in his life, made his way, if the story is true, made his way all the way to India, telling people about Jesus. And I don't know how many people populated the country of India back in Thomas's day. Probably not as many millions as are there now, but there had to be thousands upon thousands. And we don't know of anybody but Thomas that went there by himself to go preach. And he gave his life for it. And I share that with you because it's humbling to be at that place and to be overlooking the city. And Kurt was, as we're just kind of looking, it's a nice, peaceful spot to be, overlooking a very chaotic city. And he looks at all these buildings and all these people, and he says, man, how? It's just kind of a moment of, real honesty for Kurt. He said, how are we going to tell this many people about Jesus? One at a time. Let's just start telling them and see what God does. And what we were reminded of as we were up on that hillside, Thomas came there, as far as we know, not knowing anybody else. He came there by himself and started talking, one person at a time. And even though the major religion there is still Hinduism, and even though the Muslim, the religion of Islam is growing, Christianity is growing too. And there are people that need to hear about Jesus. And it may seem like there's no possible way. How are we going to reach 8 million people? Do we really believe that God can reach 8 million people? I believe he can. I really do. But it starts one at a time. And we become better at that over there when we get more of in the habit of it over here. So if I can challenge you with anything this morning, if you've missed out or kind of tuned out of everything else I said, let's go to work tomorrow. Let's go spend time in our neighborhoods and our kids' games and wherever it is we're going to be tomorrow, one at a time. Let's start letting people know about our faith. There's people that you're around on a daily basis who need to know about Jesus. And it's time we start letting them know. Me included. So we're going to do what we do every Sunday. We're going to stand together and we're going to sing a song together. And as we sing that song, we're going to invite anyone that's here this morning, if you're struggling with your faith, if you're struggling with sin, if you're stressed, if you're worried, if you're fearful, if you're angry, if there's something that's just a burden in your life, we want to invite you to walk forward and let us know what that is while we're singing together. And we will pray about that, and we will do whatever we can to help lift that burden off your shoulders and allow God to set you free from it so that you can be empowered to go out and tell people what he's done for you. But the song that we're going to sing is a song about worship and about the heart of worship. And the key thought, the key theme in this song is Lord, it's not about me. It is all about you. And if I have that kind of heart where it's not about my pride and it's not about my schedule and it's not about my ego and it's not about me, it's truly all about you, it's going to be a whole lot easier for me to start telling people one at a time about Jesus. Because it's about his glory, about him moving in this community and in this place. It has nothing to do with me. So even if, as we're standing together and singing this song, if you don't move from the spot where you're at, I would invite you, I would encourage you, I would challenge you to let this song be your prayer to God. God, stop me from making it about me. Let my life right now in this moment start being all about you. And let's see what God does with us. But if we can help you in any way we want to, while together we stand and sing.